Hello, everyone's Forest Focus. A load of interesting transfer chat today. It's Nottingham Forest reported want 5 more signings. Sosa, Ramon Sosa even might be one of them, and another might be one of Brazil's top emerging talents. We'll discuss all that and more in the company of, first of all, Mikey Clark. Mikey, how are you doing?
Yeah, really good. Thanks, Matt. Are you good?
I'm good. Did Ruben Sosa play in the 90s in Italy? I keep writing down Ramon Sosa, and I'm sure Ruben Sosa was a player. I'll Google him after this. Second guest is Greg Mitchell, who looks like he's got a tail or a dog's head coming out of his shoulder. Greg Mitchell, how you doing?
Good, yeah. Slight panic. The dog was crying downstairs, so I thought better. I've not been in long, you see, so get him upstairs, it'll be all right.
Why have you not been in long, Gregory?
I've been to the gym, been boxing.
You've been to the spa, you mean?
Well, yeah, maybe a little bit.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. I'm going to the spa next week, so I can't complain. I do love a spa trip. Right, we'll get into transfer chat. Just before we start, should recognise the awful, unspeakably awful events in Southport yesterday. Unbelievable. So thoughts with everyone there that happened to them, echoing the awful events of Nottingham a year ago. Thoughts with everyone affected from everyone at the podcast, no doubt. Transfers then, like I was saying, lots to talk about. I thought I might not have anything to talk about with these chaps today, but there's an interesting article with John Percy in the Telegraph. He was out in Spain, so if people have got access to it, I recommend they read it. The most kind of pertinent point transfer-wise was John saying we want 5 more players, a keeper, a left-back, 2 wingers and a forward. And we'll get into a couple of names as we go along. But in general, Greg, what do you think about that? I suppose the interesting one's a keeper and left back, but what do you think in general about 5 more? Is that too many or about right?
It depends if we lose any. I'm sure there'll be outgoings, won't they? I mean, and if there are, then 5 will probably be sensible. And compared to other seasons, 5 more compared to what we've already got, which is quality over quantity, I'd be happy with that. You know, it's all about making sure we've got that squad for the entire season, which did help last season, you know, when Luton kind of peeled off a bit once their injuries started coming in, and that didn't happen to us. So 5 would be fine. The keeper thing, I just don't get. I mean, he used to be a keeper, didn't he? So maybe he does get a bigger say in that, but I don't know. It's a strange one. Maybe the others just aren't up to what we expected so far.
What do you think about it, Mikey? Especially the keepers. We discussed Ramsdale at length yesterday. Lewis was quite funny. He absolutely hates talking about keepers. He's had enough talking about us signing more goalkeepers because we've signed so many. And he was pretty set against changing Sells would be his number one. I'm kind of more on board because Ramsdale is, you know, a notable upgrade. So there are scenarios where I wouldn't be against bringing another keeper in, but it is a bit odd that we've got so many. What do you think about 5 signings, but specifically keepers?
Yeah, I think Greg has probably hit the nail on the head. It does depend on whether 5 is enough or too much or ample. Really depends on who leaves. So you've got a lot of fringe players there at the moment, haven't you? Like Dennis and Joe Worrall and Bola and Wang and people like that. You know, if they exit, then you are looking short in terms of your squad in your depth and your backup. So again, another one of Greg's points, he said quality over quantity. That's the key thing. And the only one of the 5 that John Percy name checked was that winger. I found it very interesting that he was actually named. So that suggests to me that could be quite close and he could be one of the 5. I think the numbers sound about right if they are areas that we need, which are essentially the wingers and the forward areas. Goalkeeper, I keep kind of changing my mind on it. So there's no doubt that Ramsdale is an excellent goalkeeper. He'd be first choice at probably the vast majority of the Premier League teams. It's just if you were to say to me, where in the Nottingham Forest squad do you need an upgrade? I just wouldn't say goalkeeper. I think we've brought in 7 or 8 goalkeepers since we got promoted. And it just feels as if we've now got a lot of strength there. You know, you've got Matt Turner could potentially be a number 3, and you've got Carlos Miguel, and you've got Matt Sells that probably be battling it out for number 1. You know, Sells has not come over last season having been first choice at his previous club to sit on the bench at his age. And nor has Miguel up sticks and left his home country and travelled halfway around the world to not try and force his way in. So for him to then become potentially third choice, it just doesn't feel right to me. So I'm not saying Ramsdale isn't a good keeper, because he is. He's excellent. He's excellent. It just feels like an area that wouldn't even be in my top 3 or 4 areas to look at. But we'll see what happens. I think it'd be really, really interesting if we strengthen those forward areas, because that's where the games are won and lost, essentially, in both boxes. But goalkeeper, like I said, I just keep changing my mind. We shall see what happens. It just doesn't feel like an area that we really need to strengthen. But, if somebody of the quality of Ramsdale is available, I think Temp said it the other day, we might be foolish not to pick him up. So I want to be convinced either way. I'm kind of on the fence with it at the moment, but I'm really looking forward to strengthening those forward areas.
I guess it depends on budget, a lot of it. Obviously, there is space in a budget because we seem to want a second keeper and 2 wingers and a forward. So there must be a bit of a war chest. That's a football cliche, isn't it? To actually sign players. As Sean says before I throw it back to Greg, if you're watching and you're not subscribed, do us a favour and subscribe to get us to 8,000 subscribers. I think we're about 20 short or something. So it'd be good to get that sorted this week. And thanks very much to Going Beyond the Illusion for becoming a channel member. You've earned an invite to Thursday's members social. So hopefully see you there. I think there's a good number coming. So it should be a good evening. I think the forecast is good as well. On these keepers then, Greg, the name in the Telegraph is Sam Johnston, which has been the consistent name. Is he enough of an upgrade on Sells to make you go for it? Because Sells was he's effectively Belgium's number 3. Sam Johnston is, when he's fit, maybe England's number 4. Is there that much between them that you'd be interested in Johnston or not?
We just don't see enough, do we? Sells, I thought, did a reasonable job last season. He was good enough. But it's where they want to be and where they're going. And I thought this new keeper we'd got in from Brazil was going to be the answer. But, the noises are that maybe not. Maybe he is destined to be a number 2 for us. Johnston's an excellent keeper. He's in and around the England setup. It's kind of like a Henderson move, isn't it? I think he'd be a great asset to have. It's just where we are in a couple of years with all this again, with with the funding and stuff. We've just got to be so careful and so much more sensible. Is the goalkeeper more critical than a striker at the minute? I don't think so. So for me, if you're going to be spending 120 grand a week on a player, let's find that elusive striker that we desperately need, because the keepers are top quality keepers that we have. It's just, do you go that extra level to get kind of like a top 8 to 6 quality keeper, which is kind of what your Ramsdales are in this league? Johnston maybe like top 10 or something. So it's a real tough one, but it's just the money. It's where we'd be with the money. And for me, prioritize a striker over the keeper situation. The keeper situation isn't desperate. We just want a little bit more, in my eyes.
That's the wrong one I'm clicking on. There we go. Thanks to Nick for subscribing and appreciate the support. Hopefully we'll get to 8,000 today. That'd be great. What about Sells then, Mikey? It's so interesting. I was going to get into this a bit more yesterday, but the clock was ticking, because when you watch him, he looks he's perfectly solid. He's done a good job. His numbers don't really stack up against that. Like Greg says, Ramsdale top 4 keeper, Johnston maybe top 10. Is Sells a top 10 keeper from what we've seen or not?
I don't think there's much in it between Sells and Johnson, if I'm honest. So if we are looking to upgrade the goalkeeper, it needs to be a serious upgrade for that amount of money that Greg was talking about. So, if an Aaron Ramsdale is available and we bring him in, he would be an upgrade, but that's a hell of a lot of money. So I suspect that we'd have to move 1, if not 2 goalkeepers out just to pay for the loan fee and his wages. I could be convinced, like I said before, on Ramsdale, absolutely. Johnson, not so much, if I'm being honest. I don't see him as a significantly better player than what we already have. So, I wouldn't really be convinced on that one. But like Greg says, I don't think it's an area that we really should be worried about. I've been worried about it for the last year or so with the goalkeepers that we've had before, and that helps. It's just nice not to worry about it. So, but they obviously think, at the club, they obviously think there's a potential of getting somebody in who's a really top echelon goalkeeper. Ramsdale is. don't think Johnson has. So we'll just see what happens, Matt. But fingers crossed they decide one way or the other, because, like I said, I'm not sure Carlos Miguel's flown over here to be third choice, but we shall see.
Yeah, I agree with everything you say. I think it's got to be a noticeable upgrade. There must be some doubts around Sells and Miguel. They want another keeper. It doesn't say if they want the next keeper to be a third choice keeper, to be fair. We're all assuming they want it to be a first choice, but it's got to be a real upgrade for me. And if someone comes in as a number one, then I think Sells would go. I can't see them keeping him. And Turner's bound to go as well. And then it's what you do with the third choice. You can't keep Turner as number 3, because I bet he's on first choice wages, and I bet Sells is. And also the thing I was thinking is, you don't want to block Miguel's pathway. If he's going to be as good as we think he is, do you sign a Sam Johnston to play for 3 years when he's probably at his ceiling and Miguel might surpass it? So I'm pretty, like we said yesterday, I'm fine with Sells for a year if Miguel ends up being better than him. And maybe we're a bit disparaging of Sells the way we're talking, because he did make the Belgium Euro squad and he was fine for us. So yeah, happy to move on with that. Go on, Greg.
Oh, that going beyond the illusion guys just made a good comment. My kind of thinking, we're looking for the next 5 years. We're going for Europe. If Ramsdale is available and wants to come, then we must sign him. That's probably the way they're thinking.
Well, I was going to say, the point is that the best part of it is the bit at the end. It's exactly how the owner thinks.
Yeah.
He just wants constant progress, and I don't think he minds a short-term deal. I mean, obviously he is the architect of the Navas deal, and that works really well. So yeah, I wouldn't rule it out at all. Something big. It just depends on a PSR and all that. Like Lewis said yesterday, we can't be panicking in 12 months' time. Let's move on to left backs. What does this, Greg, do you think mean that they don't trust Richards? And interestingly, Toffolo as well. I wonder if Toffolo is going to be a left centre-back this season, because he's played left centre-back in pre-season. And he's not the barnstorming left-back that Nuno likes. So maybe he plays a different role, or maybe he goes. It's interesting to want another left-back when we've got 3 on the books already.
Mm-hmm. Omar Richards has looked decent, and we've seen him in pre-season. But again, it's the unknown, isn't it? Quality over quantity. I don't think we need 3 left backs, so that does possibly give the movement for someone to go out. I'd be surprised if it is Toffolo, because he's a bit of a Mr. Reliable if and when needed, isn't he? He's a great squad player, and he comes in when others have got knocks, and he always does a good job, and he's a great person to have around. So it'd be interesting to see. But like I say, they seem to have a plan this year. They're not just going, he's available and he's good, let's get him. Oh, we've got 4 in that position already. So there must be a view of something's going to move the other way as well. I mean, I know it's the other side, but there was all this talk about Nico Williams the other week, which has surprised everyone and reminded everyone what a quality player he is for us. So we just don't know. There's so much further to go in this window as of yet, and maybe we're just planning for what's to leave as well.
Ainers must be nailed in the team, though, Mikey. Maybe Ainers been viewed as a right back, but then you read John Percy's piece and it talks about how much Moreira's impressed. I mean, he was probably brought in as a backup option, and he's already making a case, at least in the Carabao Cup games, he's going to push Nico.
Good options, aren't they, really? I mean, you look at what we had last season and the season before, we're scratching around a little bit. And these players are so versatile, Aina and Nico and the young lad that we've got. They can play either side, very quick, young, energetic, enthusiastic, can play full-back or wing-back. And that kind of suits what Nuno wants to do. We're going to have to be flexible in certain games against certain opposition. And you can't really ask somebody to run up and down that touchline every single game, twice a week for the next 8 months. They're going to be knackered. So you are going to need a bit of backup. I just think it's really, really positive. I think if we do settle for a back 3, those wing backs will be our outboard. So you're going to need Aina, who was absolutely brilliant. Nico Williams, as Pete said the other day, was player of the month, sort of 3 months running because of what he puts in. And I think they probably nailed on for that first game. But then you've got the backup, as Greg says, you can play Toffolo out there. He potentially might be a centre back. You've got the young lad, Moreira, who's impressed. They may strengthen again. So it's looking really, really positive. I think you can't necessarily have too many options in those wide areas because, like I said, they're usually the outball. for us if we're going to play a back three. So I think, like I said, Williams and Aina will probably start the season. But you never know, as the window closes. So how long we got? 6 to 8 weeks? You get that domino effect, don't you? So somebody might become available who is a significant upgrade or adds real competition in those areas. And I just hope we haven't wasted or spent all the money on a goalkeeper that we don't necessarily need. So there is a bit to be said for just being a little bit cautious, starting these players that did so well at the back end of last season and have impressed, like Aina and Williams, and just seeing what happens. I'm ridiculously positive, which is really unlike me, to be honest. I'm ridiculously positive that we're going to start the season really well. Those first few fixtures look quite appetising. And I'm really, looking forward to seeing what we can do. But yeah, Ola Aina, I think I picked as my player of the season, or signing of the season last season, on the free for what he did. I think he's such a good character as well. We see these videos. He's obviously really well liked. Bundle of enthusiasm. He's got a load of experience. He's probably approaching his peak now as a footballer. Can play either side. Yeah, I'm really excited about what we can do. I think he's nailed on to start with Nico the other side.
I think so. Jonathan makes this is a fair point from Jonathan. Can you rely on Omar Richards to be your backup where every time if he's needed, you need him to be available consistently, and that's been his problem. He probably needs a whole season of being available before you trust him. So if Aina gets injured, do you turn to will Nuno want Toff to play 15 games in a row? Probably not, and then. Or you could play Nico, but then you have to play Moreira. So I can sort of see it. Just to hope we don't end up going back to stockpiling players as much of anything. Like I feel like every sign that comes in now has to probably improve the 11, unless it's a couple of the wingers that we'll get onto. And the other thing in the article, Greg, that John mentions around Zach Abbott saying Man United wanted to sign him, and he signed a new deal at Forest. We've seen him play pre-season. He plays on the left side, so he can play as backup to Murillo. And the other in the Athletic as well. Sorry, it says about Joe Worrall that he can go still, and he hasn't. But do you feel like that's the way the tide's flowing now? That maybe Zach is a really good option as a backup to Murillo or the 6th choice centre back for when needed.
Yeah, I mean, Zach Abbott's going to be key for a little League Cup run, I'd hope. And that's what always excites me early season, see these youngsters come through and get excited about them. He's not going to be a week in, week out for us anytime soon, but, you just never know when they have that breakthrough season. So, of course, he's the future, signing a new deal. And I know Man United's not the pull anywhere near it used to be, but it still says a lot when he's chose to stay in and around Nottingham. And Joe Worrall said himself, I went to a really good charity do the other week, and Joe Worrall was there, and he wants to play football. Of course he does. He loves this club. He loves this city. Absolutely loves every minute playing for this team, but he'll want to play football just like any good professional should want to. So whether that's with us and he manages to find his way back into the team, which is going to be incredibly difficult with the calibre of players we sign in that position now, it's doubtful. So where does he go? Sheffield United, there was talk of that. Coventry, wasn't they? Kind of Sunderland. That's the type of club that if they get a player like Joe Worrall, they're fighting for promotion. He's done it before and he can certainly do it again because he is of that quality. I'd be gutted to see him go, but realistically, you struggle to see him playing as much football as he wants to at Forest this season.
Go on, Mike.
I was just going to say quickly. Been thinking about this. So if we're going to start the back three, those three are probably going to be Bolly, Milenkovic, and if I've said that right, sorry, and Murillo. You always say that you need 2 for each position potentially. So if you're going to play a back three, you need at least 5 or 6. After that, who have you got? You've got a young lad, Zach Abbott. You've got Toffolo that's been playing out of position. And you've got Joe Worrall.
Omobamidele, the other one.
Omobamidele, of course you have, yeah. But you still need another. So I guess my point is, if we're going to settle on the back three, and that's going to be potentially our go-to, you're going to need 5 or 6 centre-backs. You've got Bolly, who his injury record is a bit hit and miss. Murillo may go, still, if the big comes in for him. And then you're left with 2 or 3, and one of them's Zach Abbott. So my view is Worrall probably stays unless we bring somebody else in if he wants to play back three. Because it doesn't make any sense to me. If Worrall leaves and he's going to play that back three and the window shuts, and then we get one injury or one suspension, and Worrall goes at the end, you're left with players playing out of position like a Toffolo, and I don't think that's wise. So as much as he wants to play football, and I love Joe Worrall as well, he's been brilliant for the club, I just think things need to align, I think, for him to leave. And if he does leave, I'd be astonished if we didn't bring anybody in that centre-back position.
Yeah, I think Joe's a perfectly good backup option. He's had some great games in the Premier League. He's had some, big errors, which is probably why he wouldn't start. But I wouldn't be gutted at all if we kept him. I'd like to talk about pathways for Miguel, keep a pathway open for Abbott if the club internally think he's going to be that good. But yeah, the article that John wrote did say that Milenkovic would partner Murillo. So I wonder if we're still leaning towards a back four, but we've seen a lot of back three in pre-season. But I guess, we were discussing this yesterday around horses for courses and opposition, and some games are going to suit back threes more than back fours. So it's all open, and it feels like there's certainly options there. At the moment, we've got the 6 centre backs. Like Mikey says, if one goes, especially if it's Joe, then maybe we bring someone in. We'll have to wait and see on that. Peter says, do us a favour, hit like on this video if you haven't already, and subscribe. Like I mentioned earlier, there's 300 people plus watching, so great if you could do us a favour and hit like on the video. We'll move on to talk about wingers and forwards shortly, but just before that, our only pre-season home game is on Friday against Villarreal, so you can get down to the Trent Navigation for the build-up. It should be a lovely sunny day, 3 bars, and as a much vaunted pizza oven, as we discussed the other day. So £8.50 for pizzas. And then have to put some cash into that, so they are top quality. I'm going to spend the whole week asking people for their favoured pizzas. Greg Mitchell, I know your body's a temple, but what would your pizza of choice be?
Cheese, just standard, like a New York slice.
Just the cheese.
No, I like a bit of like andouille. Is it? Do you know if the best pizza in Nottingham is unbelievable? Is Slice and Brew. It's so good up near the corner house. Forest fan owns it as well. I know it's a free ad, but you asked the question. It's so good, really good. And they do like a really good New York style pizza that's just awesome. I think you've got to go minimalist, haven't you, with pizza? Not too much. Never it's mushrooms. Quality, yeah. Like mushrooms shouldn't be on any food.
Really?
And then no pineapple or any of that rubbish. But
no pineapple. I disagree with you there. You know that when we do these ads, the aim is to advertise the venue and not something else. Like Temps yesterday with Papa Bloody John's, and now you're advertising something else.
Oh yeah, the Nav's pizzas are amazing though, but they're new. I've only had one. I've had loads up in Nottingham.
Mikey, what about you?
Margarita. When we talk about centre-backs, and I like my centre-backs to head and kick it, I just like the basic stuff. Margarita, cheese and tomato, no messing around.
Very good.
There you go.
Very good. That fits. Yeah, I should have predicted that beforehand, to be fair. Yeah, very good. Right, going back to the article then, and a couple of other bits as we go along. We want 2 wingers, which leads nicely into, within that article in the Telegraph, Ramon Sosa is understood to be the next potential signing for 10 million. As Mikey says, it's interesting that he's named, so you would think that's pretty much a goer from the Forest end. Did see some reports in the South American media saying that he might not be coming, and a Mexican club are trying to vie with Forest to get him, but feel pretty optimistic about that. The other name is Wesley from Corinthians, who's sort of been linked with us tentatively on and off all summer. He's a 19-year-old winger, was linked with Saudi Arabia for $25 million, which is about 20 million quid. Looks like that deal's fallen through. So Forest next in line, from a reliable journalist, I think Bruno Andrade, who's been right about South American stuff before, if I'm thinking of the right chap. Also linked previously with Liverpool, and more recently West Ham and Rennes in France. What do you think about this in general, Greg? None of us are experts on Wesley, but he is touted as one of the top talents in Brazil.
We've obviously got a good South American, what's the word, roadway into these signings at the minute. It's exciting, and we haven't had many that haven't really come off yet. So Yeah, excited. I was just looking at that Sosa, and he's young. He's played a few games now. Looks like the type of player we'd like. I don't know much about Wesley at all, and that's kind of come out of the blue, hasn't it? So it's exciting. I trust that side of our recruitment now. You know, with what we've had so far and the potential, because it is still a cheaper market than buying a European player. So yeah, we'll just see. But if one of those signs, then you get excited, I think.
Yeah, I don't know much about him either. I read an article by Nathan Joyce on Wesley from the Copper Club, and Nathan is our guest on Thursday's podcast, so he'll fill us in a lot more. But it read like he's direct, pacey, carries the ball, good work rate. He sounds a lot like Elanga, although he plays on the left, cutting in. It feels like the wingers are fitting a mould, Mikey, that we want: pace, ball carriers, direct runners who will track back as well.
Yeah, absolutely, of course. Yeah, I mean, I first off when I read it, I thought, oh, it's not that guy who used to play for Villa, then went to Stoke. Is it that Wesley? But it's not. Thank the Lord. No, the recruitment team, as Greg said, have built up a lot of credit in the bank, haven't they, with what they've done by bringing a lot of South Americans at a young age over here, and their body of work has been excellent. So yeah, you have to place a lot of trust in them. So if they've identified this guy, he's at the right age, like you said, I've seen a few clips of him and stuff. He looks pretty good from what you can see on the internet, of course. But if we're going to spend that amount of money, you'd like to hope that he hits the ground running like Murillo did and like Danilo did. So it does fill me with excitement. And like I said at the start, it is position in an area that we absolutely need options in and we need to strengthen. So if he's the guy that they want, they should go and get him, because he'll have the full support of all the fans here and all the team. And you've seen with the videos that the club are putting out on social media, the camaraderie in that team at the moment. I've not seen that for a long time. So, and there's a lot of South American influence. So you'd like to think that one or two of them might be on the phone to him saying, you've got to get yourself over here. You'll get a chance in the first team. The buzz around the club is excellent. We're in our third season in the Premier League. The fans are great. Get yourself over here. So let's hope that happens, because, like I said, it is a position that we need. And what's the worst that can potentially happen? So, he comes, he maybe doesn't hit the ground running like Sangare. He then has a bit more time, and then we've seen what Sangare has done in pre-season. So it may take him a little bit of time to settle in, but it is a signing that would excite a lot of people, I would have thought. So yeah, I'm really up for it. Really, still positive, Matt.
I don't think you're far wrong with what you're saying about the South American players feeding back as well, because you look at Murillo, announcing that he wants to stay for another year and his potential, where he's going to go, but he's enjoying his time in Nottingham. And when the new players come in, the way they're welcomed, you've got Felipe still in and around the city. It's not even moved back yet. And these players will be feeding back to their agents, their family, their friends, and others are hearing about it. So a bit like when Middlesbrough, did that back in the 90s.
Good shout.
We could be having a similar thing happening at Nottingham at the minute.
I think it was Mark in the comments who sent me the Nathan Joyce link. So yeah, thanks, Mark, for that. What was I going to say? Oh yeah, I was going to ask Greg as well. I mean, I don't think this is a kind of a signal that Elanga or Hudson-Odoi are leaving. I think maybe in a year Hudson-Odoi does, or in a year Elanga does. I'd be surprised if either of those go this summer, wouldn't we?
Out and out wingers. That's where we're as short as a striker, really, aren't we? So no, I mean, gosh, if one of them left, then absolutely it's critical above a striker that we sign a winger. But yeah, you've got to have options, and they're fantastic. But there's no guarantee they're both going to be playing 30, 40 games each per season. They'll either wear themselves out or pick up knocks. So just keep improving, keep strengthening in the right positions, and the winger is certainly a right position for this season.
Any worries that we sign too many young South Americans who might not come off, Mikey? Southampton got relegated by signing too many young players. I don't think we're anywhere near that stage yet, but any worries if we keep hammering, banging that drum, that we might get there eventually?
No worries, because like I said, the body of work from these scouts and this recruitment team has been nothing short of brilliant. So I think the balance is still right. You look at that team, the potential team that takes the field against Bournemouth, there is a lot of experience in there. So even if there is 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 young South Americans or young guys that are not used to the league in the starting lineup, you've still got a lot of experience there. You know, a third year in the Premier League. So from the goalkeeper onwards, if Sells plays, and Willie Bolly and Morgan Gibbs-White, you know, there's a lot. They may be young, some of them, but there's a lot of experience. So I think as long as we maintain that balance, and I'm sure they will, you know, the average age of the squad, I think John said it in his article, has come down, and I think that is a clear plan to get more younger, athletic players with a higher ceiling that we can buy slightly cheapish and then sell on if they prove their worth and, you know, hit the ground running. I think that's a clear strategical plan from us as a club. And no, I've got no worries. Southampton that was mad. They brought in about 10 players, raided Man City's academy, players like Edozie and players like that, and then just wondered why they just couldn't hack it, because they didn't have that blend. And you notice when they went down, their blend suddenly came back, and obviously they've come straight back up as well. So I don't think we should be worried at all, because we've still got that experienced core in the team that know what it takes to stay in this league. So no, I'm not worried at all about it.
No, and since Southampton came back up, I see they've signed, you know, Adam Lallana and people like that. So
exactly,
yeah, I think they might have learned their lesson, certainly. The last area of the pitch to strengthen is a forward. Away from that, in the Athletic, there's just a quick news in brief, use an old newspaper term, saying that Forest are waiting for offers for Dennis. The fact, Greg, we're waiting for offers probably says, you know, where he's at. But that kind of player, I imagine, is the kind we're looking at, but it's not Dennis, is it?
No, and he got a good run when we watched him at Chesterfield. He had a good 45 minutes. And he looked lively. He'll make a great player for someone, just not us. I don't know. We haven't got a clue.
What's his level? What's his level, do you think? Bottom end of the Premier League?
I'd say very top end of the Championship. You know, he gets goals at the top of the Championship. Maybe he goes to Watford again, or a team like that. I think the problem is how much we'd be paying him now and what he'd expect. Why would he move? You know, they've got to somehow either half fund a loan deal for a Championship team, or hope an Ipswich or someone like that gets desperate and thinks they can do a job for them. But it's a bit sad when they say we're waiting for offers, like come and get him, please, type thing. That is not a great place for the player or the club to be in. But yeah, he should be playing football, because he's certainly got a lot of goals in him somewhere, just not really here, I can't imagine.
Well, I don't disagree with what you say at all, but he did have a season for Watford where he scored like 12 league goals, and he did play really well in Belgian football when he started. But it's just not. It's just what sometimes, Mikey, I think a career just kind of unravels a little bit through circumstance. And do you think we just overpaid for him? I imagine he's on a big wage, and it's the case that, you know, if he moves, he might reignite his career, but it's just not working for him here.
Yeah, I think that's nicely said. If I'm honest, I think if you look at that Watford team, he was, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but I'm sure he was in a front three with João Pedro and Ismail Sarr and maybe another person. So he's not as good as those two, for starters. So he was in a half-decent Watford team, and obviously had a very good season. But I kind of agree with Greg. I think he'd be excellent for a team chasing promotion, and a team that kind of plays to his strengths. He's not really one to run and track back from what I've seen. And I watched him a few times at Watford on loan as well, and their fans were getting on his back last season as well. So I just think some players, when they come to a club, it just works for whatever reason. They feel at home, they get welcomed in, the manager plays to their strengths, whatever. I just don't think it ever really ignited for Dennis here, and I think it's probably something that as a club will look to do to move him on. And I think for his career, he can go and be really good somewhere, I think, and probably be the main man at a club. But let's be honest, here he's not. Even because we are struggling in those forward areas, I still don't really think he'll get a sniff. I think he'll be one that we absolutely look to move on. Good luck to him, because he is a decent player. It's just not worked at Forest. And I think, as you said, Matt, he's probably on a bit of money, and that money can be used to strengthen and reinforce with somebody that kind of maybe fits Nuno's style a little bit better than Dennis does. That's probably the nicest I can answer that question.
I think I'm right. I mean, I'm thinking on the fly here, but I think when he had a good season at Watford, he had Josh King up front with him, who was just a proper workhorse. Then Sarr on one flank and someone else on the other, and it was set up for Dennis to be, his attack, and it's not his attack at Forest. So I don't think it's going to work. So hopefully we can move him on, maybe to Saudi or something like that. He went to Turkey and had a really bad loan spell. So yeah, let's move on from Dennis. Last topic, 10 minutes or so before we go. I'm taking the kids to the cinema, so this will probably have to end on time for once. A listener called Elsan or Laxandu, I don't know if I'm saying that right, sorry, did ask us on Twitter. I've watched a few Premier League predictions podcasts, and most have Forest getting relegated, which I don't understand. Can you discuss this in your next video? So I suppose, Greg, the question is, a lot of the betting odds have us finishing 17th again. A lot of fan podcasts are writing us off. Is it them not researching us properly and not appreciating our signings and internal player improvements of young players, or are we just the idiots who are getting carried away?
I think they've got to look historically, haven't they? And you can't blame them for thinking that, because we've struggled both seasons so far, and last season was arguably the easiest season to stay in the Premier League with what went up in years. But we had the points deduction. If the points deduction wasn't there, it would have looked a lot healthier. But yeah, they're not looking into what we're doing and what we're building. And the stability is key. So yeah, let them keep thinking that. That's absolutely fine with me, because when do they really get it right? Not very often. So they can keep doing that, and we can keep seeing what we see and quietly progress. That'll work for me. Just don't listen to my predictions when we go for them.
Yes, well, we'll do that in a couple of weeks. I mean, you'll be on the overlap arguing our cause again, I guess, with the pre-season show. So it'll be interesting to hear what...
It's been put back 21st, I think, now, so it'll be into the season.
Oh, that's weird. Okay.
Yeah.
A bit strange they're doing it then. It gives them a bit of a leg up, I guess. Well, it's only one game, but... Oh, yeah. Well, good that Greg's representing Forest and us on the overlap anyway. What do you think about the principle of the question, Mikey? Are we getting carried away or not?
I agree with Greg. Honestly, simple as that. I think it's an easy answer, isn't it? You look at Forest; they finished 17th and 16th, I believe, in their first two seasons. You look at the league this season; in theory, it's going to be stronger, and then they probably think, well, Forest are going to be down there, but they don't know what we know. They don't see, they don't live it like we do as fans. They don't know that at the moment the feel-good factor is everything. The recruitment looks better. There's none of this chaotic 10 in, 10 out. There's a way of playing. We're enjoying watching the pre-season. It feels very positive. We've got a good start to the season. So they don't know all these things. So let them think that we'll go down. That's fine. Absolutely fine with it. We might surprise a few people. I actually think we'll be absolutely fine this season, because I think as long as we keep hold of Gibbs White, which I think we will do, we'll beat a lot of teams down at the City Ground this season. Lots of them. So I think we'll be absolutely fine. So they can think what they want. But I won't be putting any money on Forest getting relegated, because it ain't happening. No chance.
Yeah, I agree. I'll tell you why. As Paz says in the comments, the team isn't that...
Oh, dear.
The team isn't that different as it stands. As Dan says in the comments as well, we have to wait until after the transfer window closes to really judge it. But as we sit here now, if you go back to last season when Nuno came in, the numbers, I know these chaps don't take much stock in data, but the data underneath our performances defensively was really strong. Obviously, we blew it with set pieces. So have we addressed set pieces? I hope so, because Milenkovic is massive and the best header of the ball in Serie A. If Miguel plays in goal, then he should be better. Maybe we bring a new keeper in. Maybe that's the reason they don't fancy Sells, if they don't, because he is a bit glued to his line. I'm not sure about that. So we've signed Milenkovic. Then we've got Sangare, who, touch wood, is going to be effectively like a new signing, because he wasn't the player we thought he was going to be last season. And I've said this all the time, but so much hangs on Sangare that if he shows up, that's like a new signing. Then we've retained Murillo and Gibbs White and Elanga and Hudson-Odoi as it stands. We're all young players. We're all getting better. So Ola Aina missed a lot of games. I think he only played like 20 games last season because of AFCON and injuries. We don't have AFCON. We didn't have players at the Euros. So I do think that everything's pointing towards us improving. So I'm not saying we're going to finish, 10th or 6th or anything like that. But I think we are on track to do better. And there's other teams who are slight unknowns. They've got new managers, like Fulham have lost Polinia, Palace have lost Elise, Mateta's at the Olympics. If you look at all the other teams, there's quite a lot of unknowns. And Forest have probably got fewer of those. So that's kind of why I feel that we haven't strengthened massively. But I think the incremental steps that we're taking mean that, to me, I think we can finish 14th or something like that. And to me, that's big progress. Did you want to?
And we have we've strengthened in the fact that we've had a proper pre-season with our manager, with key players that didn't get pre-seasons at all with us last season. And like you say, where we needed to strengthen was stopping the set pieces, stopping the crosses. That's probably the first 2 signings we made was with that in mind. And then you've got Sangare, who's having a good pre-season by all accounts, who just wasn't anywhere near where he should have been last season. So, yeah, I mean, I get what people like Kev are saying in the comments, but I think we've strengthened a lot more than just on paper. We've strengthened with time and, with a lot more minutes on the training pitch.
I think we do need a striker. I mean, I really like our 2 strikers that we got, but I do worry that both could be missing for spells of the season. So that is a concern. But, we're not going to have a points deduction this season. So that caused chaos and I think cost us points. And I think it clouded Nuno's thinking personally for a while. And so we don't have that. So there is stuff that's going for us. We've got a better goalkeeper. Even if Sells isn't amazing, he's better than Matt Turner, frankly. Matt Turner? I don't know how many points he really cost us, but he did cost us in games. So yeah, I feel like we're trending in the right direction without getting too carried away. I think the predictions of 17th are personally a little bit pessimistic. Right, before we get on to any other business, keep banging the drum, I know, but do us a favor and put a like on this video. Hopefully you've enjoyed this, 300 plus people with us, and do subscribe, like I've been saying, and give us a good review on iTunes. Right, any other business, Greg Mitchell?
Always. Laura's doing ever so well with her fundraising for Stand Against MND. She's almost hit 200 miles. She's going to do that tonight. You can tell I'm reading. She sent me a message, so I better do it properly. What else should I say? It's the second week. She's ahead of schedule. She's going to try and get to 210 miles tonight in this heat as well. So fair play to her. She's not drove to work in weeks. She bikes every day and she's doing unbelievable, really. So if you can, and if you want to support Sam's amazing charity, have a look on my pinned tweet on Twitter or X, what you want to call it these days, and just have a look at Laura's Just Giving, because she is doing an outstanding job. She might even bike to the barbecue on Thursday. We'll see.
Towing you?
Croggy.
I'll drop the link in the description again, because people did put their hands in their pockets.
Oh, they did. It was brilliant seeing other comments from people on the podcast as well, so it's great. Thank you.
Well, thank you to everyone who chipped in. Mikey, anything from you before we go?
Yeah, before doing any of the business, what are you seeing at the cinema then later?
Oh, God. Well, I really want to see Deadpool versus Wolverine, but you can't take a 10-year-old and an 8-year-old to see that. So, what's it called? Is it called Inside Out too? I can't remember. The one with emotions that they both want to see.
Sounds awful.
Sure but it's air conditioned, isn't it? It'll be nice.
It'll be fine. I mean, I can't keep them indoors for all the time, can I? So I've got to entertain them somehow. But I do want to see the Deadpool versus Wolverine movie. Is it versus? Yeah, I'm looking forward to see that.
Is that the one with Mullins in?
Yeah. I've gone off that. We're going off on a tangent. I've gone off that Wrexham documentary. I don't like football documentaries in general because I just think they're propaganda. But Sunderland Till I Die is good.
It's incredible seeing them out in America, though. It's the Sunderland must be kicking themselves that it didn't happen to them with Sunderland Till I Die, because they've still got the huge social media followings through it. But Wrexham are getting 50,000 people watch them out in America, and they're on a pathway to the Premier League. I'm almost certain about it now, which is crazy just through doing it that way.
Yeah. The Wrexham documentary first series was really good. The second two are less so good.
Oh yeah, I'm not interested anymore. It's just interesting how they've done it.
Yeah. It is an interesting project, and they do seem to have made a difference in the community. Right, we're going off on a real tangent.
Sorry
Super
for
Mario
that.
22 says Inside Out 2 is awesome, so I'm looking forward to it. Right.
You'll love it.
Did you do any other business?
No, I went on a tangent. Actually, what you're watching, it's in there. The only thing I was going to say is I go abroad with work at the end of the week, so I'm not going to be on it for a couple of weeks. But I am going to catch the pre-season game on Friday, and then off to Hartlepool, Tottenham, to watch the B team on Saturday before I fly abroad. So if anybody's going up to that game, give us a shout. Don't know how many Forest fans will go, but me and Lindsay are going. And that's it, really. Hopefully, by the time I get back, Forest have clocked a few points on the board, as will Hartlepool, and we'll have had a great start to the season. I can come back on and talk about how we're absolutely flying, and all these naysayers that predicted we're getting relegated are idiots and don't know what they're talking about.
What's happened to Mikey this pre-season? It's like, do I need to go negative? And I mean, you had a good sitting on the fence moment earlier, though, for a good 5 minutes. I enjoyed that.
No, never change, Greg. Never change. Right. Good to have 300 people plus with us. We shall be back. Tomorrow is the plan with Greg again and Pete. And I've asked Prutz, but he hasn't replied. So it might not be Prutz. But it'll be a Q&A. So I'll put an appeal out for questions so you guys can fire questions our way and we'll do our best to answer them. And then Thursday with Nathan Joys and then Friday post-match after Villarreal. Greg Mitchell and Milo, thank you very much.
I'm trying to get him on. He won't. What's this?
He's been a good boy.
No, he's not having it.
There he is.
Quiet
dog. Is he always that quiet?
Yeah, you've got to say big stretch. He cried a little bit, but
just missing you.
Yeah,
he's a good dog.
Treats. There you go,
Mikey. Thank you very much.
Cheers, guys. Come on, you Reds. Let's have a good start to the season. I'll catch you all in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, we'll see Mikey in a couple of weeks, but in the meantime, hopefully see everyone else tomorrow. But if not, we shall see you soon.